I was going to get that. Thank you very much for that. Should read February 02, 2022.
My apologies. I have it.
Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda for the February 2, 2022 Citizens Advisory Committee meeting?
Patsy, did you have something you were saying?
Just one thing. I don't know how important it is, but my name is left off the last week's minutes, last meeting's minutes.
That'll be in the, then we get that'll come up with the minutes when we do the corrections now, okay?
Sorry, thank you.
No, don't be sorry, don't be sorry, please. So can I get an agenda for the February 2nd, 2022 Citizen Advisory? It should be Select Committee meeting.
So moved.
Let the record show that Member Taylor made the motion. Have a seconder?
Sure.
Who said sure?
Member McCann.
Thank you. Any errors or omissions or changes of minutes for January 19th, 2022 Citizens Advisory Select Committee?
2.
Member Jesse, you can do yours now.
Okay, just making sure I'm on the right section. Yeah, there we go. Yes, my name was left off of that meeting. Got it. That's it. Nothing serious.
Oh yeah. We're going to get a motion that the minutes for the January 19th, 2022 Citizens Advisory Select Committee be adopted.
Joshua's hand is up.
Thank you.
I'm not sure that that's a motion.
Sorry?
I'm not sure that's a motion. Maybe find out why her hand is up.
Who's that? Oh, Member Lightfoot. Sorry, I can't see the screen without my glasses.
Yes, my hand was up because I wanted to make an amendment to the minutes under 6.2. At the bottom of the page, it says Member Lightfoot expressed her disappointment in the process thus far. I think to more accurately reflect what was said, I went back and I listened to it. It's at 2 hours and 26 minutes. To quote, I said, many were disappointed that council didn't consider what was put forward, and in particular regarding district energy system. I can forward that to Leslie if you would like it.
I can remember actually now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
So now, can I get a motion that the minutes of the January 19, 2022 Citizens Advisory Select Committee be adopted as amended?
Moved by Member Taylor.
Thank you, Member Taylor. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second McCann.
Thank you. For business arising from the minutes, review draft terms of reference, Citizens Advisory Select Committee. I'll turn the floor over now to Madam CAO.
Hi, good evening. So what I did was I took the original terms of reference from the January 5th meeting, and then the committee input that was emailed to me by the staff at that time, and just stuck them side by side so that it could stand out what the concerns or comments were. So for so under authority, there was no change. Definitions, there was a request in the minutes last meeting that there be a definition for the word citizen and a definition for the word resident. And I only popped in a suggestion, so the committee will need to provide what they believe the definitions would be. So this is just a suggestion off of the internet, but it could be something separate altogether. Purpose, that is correct, that the secondary securing answers to residents should actually be removed as it is part of the mandate. Mandate has no change. Committee composition, the note from the subcommittee was that there are several concerns in this section of the terms of reference. Council member as chair creates a conflict, particularly in reporting. Chair should be elected by the committee. Stakeholders listed as they are implies that they are representing a particular interest and that they are responsible to the area of interest. This causes problems that don't need to exist. Recommend moving representation in just listing names as preamble highlighted section identifies the composition of the committee. So it's standard practice actually to have stakeholder/organizations listed, because anytime a person changes, so for example, say Dylan changes out to somebody else, if you list the person's name specifically, every time that happens, that has to go back to council for a recommendation and a resolution and an amendment to the terms of reference. So it's not standard practice to list people's names. It is standard practice to use either the stakeholder group or the organization they're representing. And so if the committee members feel that as the appendix that was attached so that you could keep track of the names that were given by Councillor Leach at the time associated with the stakeholder group. If those stakeholder groups or organization representatives of the committee feels that those aren't correct, then certainly bring back a recommendation on how you, so say you feel that there should be a representative from the senior society, which I believe is kind of missing here. So I would suggest that you bring back recommendations to the committee from the subcommittee on what you see the composition would be, and then that can be considered. And then council members, go ahead.
Are we allowed to ask you questions as you're talking, or do we
Absolutely.
wait till you're done?
Yeah.
Okay, so I kind of know how our Robert did this. He picked the names and then figured out how they could be, who they could be representing. But anyway, that's over and done with. But I did notice that there's 3 names that are on the, whatever they call it, the spare list, but those names do not have any organization attached to them. So if someone were to leave this group and those are the 3 people that are on hold, so to speak, to come in, they're going to automatically represent the person that left. Like that kind of got me wondering.
Not necessarily, Noni. So part of the, sorry, Member McCann, part of the issue here was that the names were put forward, but there was no association to them. And so I just listed them here. So I'm not sure if anybody has or knows who these people were, which organizations they were going to technically represent.
They're just like us. They're just good people that'll do the job if they're asked to do the job.
Okay, so that's something that we should do a point of clarification within your terms of reference then. Do you actually, generally speaking, most committees of council don't necessarily have an alternative person. Sometimes people do like to do that under the terms of reference because say member Gessie can't attend, but she wants a representative, say from the Chamber of Commerce, an alternate representative to speak or to be in their place. So that just needs to be highlighted better within the terms of reference. Okay. And then as far as, did that answer your question? Sorry.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. As far as the council member as chair creates a conflict, particularly in reporting, I'm not sure why there's a sense there, but normally if council wants it's council's decision to say whether they want the chair of the committee to be the representative, or sorry, the representative council to be the chair of the committee, and that is how it is here. Where I've seen in the past when it's a committee such as a task force, where you internally appoint your own person at your first meeting. And I would hope on the contrary that the chair would actually be neutral and be representing the committee's wishes. I'm not sure what else to say about that. The next part was
communications.
Committee member responsibility. There was no change, so communications was the next piece. The change, I believe, primarily shall be done by administrative representative of the committee. So all formal external communications from the committee, unless the staff are directed to do a staff report through the process of the committee, asking council to direct staff to do something. The communications would actually come through the chair or the committee themselves. The committee appoints somebody to be the communicator. So you could actually add that. And then meetings was no change. And then reporting was the committee reports back to the mayor and council through the chairperson. That's correct. So hence the reason that it's actually simpler if it is a council member, because otherwise this committee person would have to attend the council meetings to do the reporting back.
That's right.
Protocols and procedures, meeting and agendas, no change. Consensus decision making. There's actually two minds here. So consensus decision making is the consensus of the committee. I think the way, when I look back on some of the meetings, I think probably what's happening, because we're trying to do it on Zoom, it's really hard to know what the consensus is. So I believe the chair calls out. So it's not necessarily a vote, but it's wanting to know what people are. So, you know, that can be changed to the consensus if you would like. Conduct is no change. Governance is no change. And then committee chair, we've already discussed that. And the committee chair should remain neutral. They only should be breaking a tie under Robert's rules if it's required. And then number 12, the term was no change. So does anybody have any questions? I would recommend the next steps to the subcommittee would be to consider the recommendations as today and the points discussed, you know, that I've brought up here, and bring it back to the February 16th CAC meeting for a consensus decision on the committee moving forward. I can send out comments. Sorry.
Yeah, can you clarify what, like, I'm really sorry to interrupt, but okay. I'm just learning the process here. I'm so used to things just happening in a meeting, and the time lag I have to get used to. So the recommendations that were made there primarily regarding the chair and the selection of the chair, what are you recommending? You're recommending that we just trash all that and go back to the way it was, even though everybody already said that they wanted it done this way? I think I'm missing something.
Yeah, so if the committee has a consensus decision that they really want the committee chair to be elected by the committee, then you need to make a recommendation back to council, because it is actually council's committee. So yeah.
Okay, and so that needs to be done at a regular meeting of this committee, correct?
That's correct. And then it would move forward to council. So your next meeting, I think, is February 16th. So then it would go to the February 23rd council meeting.
Unless we have a meeting before then?
Yeah, or unless tonight you decide that you all feel that the comments that have been made are amenable and you want to go ahead with the way it is.
Oh, thank you.
But I would think that the subcommittee might want to have one last look at I'll send it back to you with my comments now in a column that I've given you tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to hear what other people have to think about that, because we had everyone except one member was at that subcommittee. So I'm kind of curious what other people have to say about making it go on and on.
Yes, I'd like to make a couple of comments. One is that we're wasting an awful lot of time on process, and I thought that our committee had been pretty clear on what they wanted to see changed. So in response to the composition of the committee, that's not really up to this committee to decide who is on the committee. That's council's decision. And so I would assume that council would make a generalized statement that they're encouraging a wide representation of community members. And then that criteria that you've set out, those little silos you've put us all in, you could see where a skill set was missing and you would make that recommendation. So I don't know why it has to be in our terms of reference, because that's a council decision. We have nothing to do with it. And as far as sending the recommendations back, it sort of feels like you're trying to wear us down to just give in to what we had without any changes. So, you know, I see our next meeting is March the 2nd. I mean, how long do we want to spend deciding how we speak with each other?
February 16th is the next meeting.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
February 16th is the next committee meeting.
Okay, well, your calendar on your website needs to be corrected then. Thank you.
So Member Lightfoot, first of all, it's not me specifically, so I would correct that, but I'm just now stepping into the process. So in January, if I had been involved in the beginning, which is hindsight, which is 2020, all these comments and recommendations would have come forward before you even had your draft terms of reference, I guess is all I can say about that part of it.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make it difficult at all. It's process.
Well, if I read the original terms of reference, which we all submitted our names to participate in, it has become much more complicated and unwieldy. And
are you addressing the initial one that was done in November? I think it was November the 11th.
Yes, when they
yeah. So the issue with that one was actually the committee itself was named an advisory planning committee, which is actually under the Local Government Act. So you can't have a committee named the same as something that's already in legislation. So that was part of the issue there.
But much more than the name changed. It was
yeah, you're correct, because it was only just a couple of things that were pointed out. How can I put this? In order to avoid issues in the future as what we're experiencing now, a terms of reference should identify the headings that are within the January 5th meeting agenda, I guess is what I'll say to that. And again, it's not my decision, it's a decision of council. And we're just trying to make sure that the process that gets put in place, doesn't matter who's on it, is a process that can be followed.
Yeah, it was hopefully.
Where'd you go? Anybody else with a comment? So,
no.
Sure, hey, I've got a couple. It's probably unfair to talk to Madam CAO about some of the stuff here. When Councillor Leach was, former Councillor Leach was appointed as the chairperson, what he tried to do, and if you can remember back this far, was he tried to get people on this committee who were in contact with the most residents. And that has been the thing since the start. Previous staff couldn't give us lists of how to get a hold of anybody. We didn't know where anybody lived. And this committee is supposed to be taking some concerns, etc., from the residents. We tried to get, what he tried to get a good cross section of everybody, and that's why we got artists, farmers market, everything. Those people, so we were going to be able to, he hoped he was going to be able to at least get 75 or 80% of the people through you. Okay? So that's what that's where that came from. So just so we know. The other one I say to you and Subcommittee Chair McCann is under Section 8 meetings, you may want to put the 4 p.m. in. And then we know when we're going to be meeting all the time. It's just got the date in there, the first and third Wednesday. We usually meet at 4. And lastly, I'm just going to speak about the TOR, the terms of reference. I believe my first meeting was the 12th of December. And one thing I did hear at that meeting was that we don't want to get off track. And I made the statement that we should tighten up the terms of reference to keep us on track. And that's what we've tried to do. Okay, and that's where the comment that I made originated from, so that people knew and know what our direction is. So I leave that with you too. So, Subcommittee Chair McCann, will you take this back to your meeting and report back at the next committee meeting?
What exactly am I taking back? The recommendations that we just heard is basically we're talking about the chair and the list of names. Is that basically the issues that still need to be resolved here?
So what happened is this, is your subcommittee passed that up through the committee. I took it into council and had it given to staff, which was my recommendation was it went to senior staff, the CAO, and the corporate officer.
Yep. I got it all.
I got it all. But this minute now the corrections have been made. It's got to go back to you and your committee for acceptance or not.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Chair Hay. So for the committee members, I'm going to send you out the original terms of reference that was. I've gone back through the minutes and stuff. All the original terms of reference, other than incorrect name, was identified as authority in the mandate. So it had nothing about committee structure, process, or anything. So hopefully that will help you understand why this had to be flushed out a bit. So I'll send you that. I will send you the table with the comments from the staff on a third column, and then from there you can do your thing. Would that help?
Okay, and then it goes to the next agenda, and it's just an item to go to council, correct?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
You can carry on doing your business. It's not to stall your business at all.
Yep.
So you, okay.
I just want to know how long it'll take.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. 4.2, chair report. That was the recommendation council. Member Lightfoot touched on I think a very important thing, which I've got time to talk about myself, and that's about the speed and that of how things are going. So I'd just like to take the opportunity to present some insight into the municipal government, which may lend itself to a better understanding of what transpires when gathered information arrives at the village office and before it gets there. When council is first introduced to a subject topic which has a direct impact on the village as a whole or the taxpayer, the first thing which transpires is finding out a lot more about it. Generally, it is referred to staff via a motion. Sometimes we look at each other and say, quote, well, so we just direct staff to conduct the research, unquote. Whereas in reality, that is quite unfair to both council and staff. The reason being is Part 5, Division 2 of the Community Charter clearly states, exercise of power by bylaw or resolution. A council may only exercise its authority by resolution or bylaw. I fully realize that most residents do not realize this fact. In fact, most think the mayor or any councillor can tell staff what to do at any time they feel like it. And my friends, nothing could be further from the truth. Also, a common belief is mayor and council can provide or obtain things on their own at any time they so desire. So please allow me the time to provide more insight into our governance procedures and how they work. We use the 11th edition of Robert's Rules of Order, and from it says motion and resolutions. A motion is a proposal that the assembly takes certain action or that it express itself as holding certain views. It is made by a member obtaining the floor, as already described, and saying, quote, I move that, unquote, which is equivalent to saying, quote, I propose that, unquote, back it off. And then starting the action he or she proposes to have taken. thus a member, quote, move, unquote, bracket on, proposes, bracket off, that a resolution be adopted or amended or referred to a committee. Every resolution should be in writing, and the presiding officer has the right to require any main motion, amendment, or instruction to a committee to be in writing. Just a bit of an aside, the community charter under the bylaw procedure, because we're dealing with bylaws too, requirements for passing bylaws. Before a bylaw is adopted by the council, it must be given 3 readings by the council. Total of 4 times it comes in front of council. Second, subject to this section and the applicable procedure bylaw, a bylaw may be given up to 3 readings at 1 meeting of council. 3, there must be at least 1 day between the 3rd reading and the adoption of the bylaw. 4, if this or any other act requires that a bylaw receive 1, approval of the lieutenant governor in council, a minister, or the inspector, or the approval of the electors or assent of the electors. The approval or assent must be obtained after the bylaw has been given 3rd reading and before it is adopted. 5, if a bylaw is subject to both requirements referred to in section 4, the approval referred to in section 4A must be obtained before the bylaw is submitted to the approval or assent referred to in subsection 4B. Once a bylaw is adopted, the council member presiding at the meeting at which it was adopted and the corporate officer must sign the bylaw. So, let's continue on. A matter is passed to staff via resolution of council. That's our legal direction to council to carry out what we have asked, not a request. It should lay out the exact information council requires in order to make its decision, and I got bracket on, F, bracket off, more than 1. In most cases, council and senior staff, bracket on, CAO, corporate officer, bracket off, have been down this road before and are a well-oiled machine, or at least we hope so. Let's just take this a step further. Council must take into consideration a couple of things before finalizing the resolution. A, exactly how much information they want and how detailed. B, how much time it will take to gather the required information. C, how much work the staff already have on their, quote, plate, unquote. D, what is the priority of staff's current workload? That determines when this one would be delivered back to council. E, how does council want the report presented? essay format, point format, pros and cons format, and there are probably other ways, but council must be in agreement as to what format they want the information presented in. Staff receives council's wishes now via that resolution. The mayor will confer with the CAO as to the as for and what with, as the mayor is the council's spokesperson to staff. And usually everything moves from the councilor through the mayor who confers to the CAO, who will advise the mayor on necessary time required, or it's a rush job. Individual councilors should not interfere once the resolution has been passed to staff. Imagine in a large municipality, 7+ councilors all trying to tell the CAO how to do their job. Once this has been done, or even before, the CAO has devised a plan and has a good idea which staff under the CAO's command will be the best suited to conduct this work. Maybe no one's an expert in this matter, and it has to go to an expert for work, known as a contractor. The CAO also tells the contractor what format, how much detail, and time frame the work to be done. And that usually is done in the contract. CAO knows their staff and workload, so they have a good idea if it can be handled inside and who can best do it. Usually the office has what I call standing operation procedures, how things work around the office. Senior staff know their people. Staff is now working on the matter, but does council have nothing to do? Not likely. Each councillor will be conducting their own research into the matter, mainly become familiar with the topic. If a councillor finds what they think is a pertinent piece of vital information, they can contact the mayor, and the mayor will confer with the CAO. And if entered into the overall information gathering process, the mayor will inform the rest of the council as to the information and what the mayor has done with it. Staff, once all the information has been gathered, place the information into a report format and will attach it to the agenda. Procedure bylaw 692 states, this is paragraph 16, bracket on, 3, bracket off, quote, the CAO will make his or her best effort to make the agenda available to the members of the council and the public by 4:30 p.m. on the Wednesday prior to the meeting, but must make the agenda available no later than 3 business days prior to the meeting, unquote. This provides ample time for council members to review the information they have asked for and to seek clarification regarding the information or ask questions. By the time the meeting is called to order, all should be familiar with the content. Only problem which may arise is if a resident asks a last-minute question, and then it can be brought forward during the discussion. So it's not a thing that's passed and done in 5 minutes. There's a process that has to be followed. Excuse me. I took an oath when I took on the position of council for the village of Lytton, and that was to look after the people and also to spend their money wisely. I also took an oath 40 years ago to serve my country, and I'm still under that oath, and I try to do it to the best of my ability. And procedures are what we have to follow. So moving on, now to address the items mentioned in today's agenda. We want to know about the motion regarding Village of Lytton Incentive Fund. Remember, like what I wrote that out here, but I'm not going to read it again because it's already been passed on. I said this was passed on by motion at the next council meeting via resolution for staff to conduct a review and recommendation to council. It would have been greatly assisted if some of the following background information were provided instead of just a blanket request. Things such as, how much money were we looking for per household? Is the amount based on the rebuild cost per house? What government senior levels would be supplying that money? What input from other members of the Citizens Advisory Committee towards this? We should be trying to assist staff and not find more work. So let us discuss these potential resolutions later and flesh them out. The next motion was regarding the Village of Lytton building trade fair. Again, remember, like what I have written out here, but it went into council anyway. It's a very ambitious venture, and who on staff do we see organizing this major event? And what kind of job do they need to do it? The cost of this endeavor, and where are we getting the money? We have to have a close look at these resolutions in future, as they have a tendency to tax an already overworked staff. So as a committee, we're here to help our staff get as much information they can so they can get an answer for us. Well, I leave that at that. Now I lost my agenda.
Member O'Connor, or not member, sorry, but Denise O'Connor is asking if you could just speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other one that we have on the agenda today is the status of the building bylaw. Before I get into my part of it, I want to let you know that staff, and not just the lady you see sitting before you, but we got people on there too, have been working diligently on this, trying to come up with something that's best for everyone. This seems to be an ongoing subject at all levels. I just want to present my 2 cents worth. But I can assure you the staff have this as a top priority.
This meeting item does not exist. Please re-enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
Sorry. Have engaged experts to try and come up with a solution. I truly believe the Citizens Advisory Select Committee can have a great influence on what the final building bylaw looks like and what is accepted. But we need to do some work and come up with ways to make the bylaw work and not just provide advice on what is wrong with them and not provide a solution. It seems that the district energy system and the step code size of buildings are the two biggest concerns of everyone. This committee and the council are well aware of this fact. So what is the solution? Do we as a committee put forward our views as to what we and the residents would like to see as a draft building bylaw? And then bylaw 750, and move it to second reading. Or do we, with factual information and caution, present council with alternate means? I also see we're reverting back to building bylaw 693, I believe it's 218, was an option. And it is a bylaw which is currently in place. But without work, it may just not be the best alternative. Please understand this. I was a councillor who had resolution 18-47 passed via motion, which was the adoption of that bylaw. And I truly believe that that bylaw served its purpose for a village which was still standing. There are some things within it which just may hamper what we are trying to achieve with a building bylaw facing our current situation. So we got to get positive and put stuff in. I've read all the bylaws and I make notes. The old bylaws got one thing in there that says to the effect is that when the demolition starts, the owner has to put that money into the village to hold as a surety in case it's not cleaned up properly. I'd like to see that gone. And there's other ones in there about we've got residents who live with houses right against the sidewalk, which is probably they want the 3 foot or 3 meter setback. We've got to address that stuff. We've got to talk to our people out there. We have to talk to our people to find out how this bylaw is affecting each and every one of them. Okay, so some of it won't bother some of it's going to have a dramatic effect on people. And that's what we were struck, one of our mandates we were struck for. Member Gessie.
I just have to get some clarification here now. Are you talking about 693, bylaw 693 now, or 750?
I'm back and forth. There's 2 of them.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm...
693 is the bylaw that is in effect.
Yes, I understand
bylaw, that. 750 is only a first reading. It's a nothing right now.
I know. Yeah, okay, but you're talking about 693 right now, right?
I mean, right now, but that one thing in there, yeah. There's other ones in there too, but I don't want to, I could get into them, but I don't really want to. Yeah.
Okay, so just so I'm clear.
Yeah, but we've got to go through these bylaws and say, oh, I talked to Emily. That doesn't suit her. She doesn't want that. Okay? And we've got to look after her because we've got to get, and Mr. Dickinson, please jump in at any time you so desire, because one big thing with me right now is we've got to get some variances in there for people that had houses that were not built according to this way back when. Can you share any of that, Mr. Dickinson?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it, Councillor.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah, so there's two implications. One is the building bylaw, the other is the land use. So when you build a new, when you rebuild your building on your lot, you were talking about the buildings up against the sidewalk. The land use bylaw already says you shouldn't do that. But the building was probably put there before the land use bylaw, so everything stayed as it was. In today's world, when you rebuild, you have to comply with the land use bylaw. So if you can't, there's ways that you can ask council to vary your setback, for instance, and that's the distance that you have to be from a property line. So those things can be dealt with. Depends on what the implications are, and council can make a decision whether they agree or not. But so that's a big factor, probably the biggest factor. The bylaw 750, yeah, it has other implications. The district energy program, the fire resistance section that is proposed. None of those are totally clear, so it's hard to say what all the implications might be. But whatever we do with fire resistance, it's going to have to be. I think your request to analyze what the effects are on various properties is going to be a very important piece of deciding what we do about fire spread between the buildings and in the community. So that's a big step, but again, we don't have a hard and fast proposal on that at this point. But when we do, we'll take a hard look at it. So it's hard, I can't really say what the effects of that will be. The district energy program, that's another issue that hasn't been fleshed out. And one of the big things there is money. You can't flesh it out without some significant cost, because it has to be designed by qualified professionals. And then once the design is done, we can get some good ideas what the impact will be. And then after that, of course, we need to install the infrastructure. So there's a lot of issues out there. It's hard to give you a hard and fast answer on any of them. I think the land use answer is pretty easy to determine, because the zoning hasn't changed from before the fire till today. So we can just look at the zoning bylaw and tell what the setbacks are, and people will have to work out what they want to do with their property based on those setbacks, and possibly asking for variances or other factors. You can build your building a bit differently, more fire resistant. So enough said for now. If somebody's got some questions, maybe I'll stop here.
Thank you very much for your time. Always, it's been much appreciated. I think the only thing I would add here, when you mentioned setback, has to do before, not after you build.
Sorry, I missed what you said there. I'm sorry.
I just said the setback, people should understand that they got to put in for their variance before they build, not after.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Those are that's only a solution when the pencil and paper are involved. Once you get to the cement, it's too late. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for your time. Mr. Martucci, have you anything to add this afternoon?
He is there, but maybe he's on.
Mr. Martucci, are you with us?
I am with you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just, here we go. I have too many pieces. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, no, nothing to add. I think that, you know, what we're trying to put in place now, and I know a lot of people are really concerned about the nature of bylaw 7500. Bylaw 7500 was introduced as a draft. It's not that it's merely on the table, as the chairman said, and is going through a process. The original bylaw that's in place has a problem in that a lot of the references in it, it's fine from a building point of view, but there's a lot of references in it to legislation that's lapsed and standards that are no longer valid. So we will be bringing forward another bylaw that I think is somewhere in between the two. And you know, the most important component, it includes some of those fire resistance standards that we saw the Institute for Catastrophic Loss Reduction. I wish they had a 750, not 7500. Thanks, Leslie. We'll be incorporating some of those changes, but like Ron said, it's getting them in the bylaws, some ways the easy part. Getting them implemented, it will be much more difficult.
Thank you very much for getting there. Can I get a motion for adjournment, please?
Do you have any questions? Does anybody have any questions?
I'm sorry. Member McCann, I did not see your hand up. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Hay. I'm just wondering, after all of your information that you shared today, what was our purpose today? Were we just here today to hear what you had to say, or was there some input you were looking for from us members today? Because I feel like I'm just kind of wondering what my role is today. Am I just saying thank you very much for all of your information, and now we're done? Because I wonder what the role of this committee is for Mr. Dickinson, for Mr. Matuzzi, for people working on the bylaw, and for people interested in that bylaw. How can we be of any assistance, and what kind of a role can this committee have following the procedures that you very eloquently outlined earlier in the meeting?
Yeah, super duper. Thank you very much for that. All the staff that are working here, most in the Lytton, they don't live there. They don't know the people. They don't know the house, what it looked like when it stood there. They don't have a clue. They are looking to us, this committee, to contact the people that we know out there and to see how the bylaw affects them. Now, we understand this. We don't like the step 5 code. That's already gone to council. And the people do not like the district energy. That's already gone. What about the setbacks? If somebody needs one that doesn't know they need one, there's somebody, all kinds of stuff they may need. So our job, what I feel my job is, I need these bylaws and I talk to people about them. Because we have the experts here, they don't.
So am I correct in paraphrasing what you said, Chairperson Hay, is that this committee is basically to try and get a word in edgewise so that you can report back? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Sorry, can you redo that again, please?
I said, yeah. I'm being facetious, Ian. I'm teasing you because I said, our job is to try and get a word in edgewise when you're not speaking so that you can carry our message ahead to the staff and to other people who are working. I'm sorry, I'm just giving you a hard time.
That's okay. I'm not here to win friends and influence people.
I'm done. Mr. Matuzzi would like to comment.
Mr. Matuzzi?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can assure the committee that what we've done is we've taken your recommendations and we've redrafted a draft bylaw for council consideration. I think once it's tabled with council, then it'll come back to the committee for further review. That draft is based on a lot of the recommendations of this committee and the input that's been provided, the very detailed recommendations. It's gone to the village lawyer. It's been redrafted in a legal format, and then it'll come back. So unfortunately, it's important for this committee that the timing doesn't quite work out, but it does have to go to council first, and then council can forward it for comment to this committee. But I think the committee will be pleased to see that a lot of the changes they are recommended, at least at this point, have been drafted into the new bylaw, which I believe may even have a new number as part of the recommendation. Leslie, you can correct me. If nothing else, you'll be happy that it has a new number.
That's correct. It will have a new number yet. Thank you,
Mr. Matuzzi. Member Gessie?
Hi, thank you. I have a bit of trouble trying to understand how all of these recommendations are getting made when we haven't even talked about them as a committee. So I feel as though the committee somehow needs to be off in subcommittees making recommendations before they get put to the council. So that we can be more effective instead of having get sidetracked or blindsided by all of a sudden a recommendation coming at us that we have to vote on right away. I think that, subcommittees may be the answer, and we could work towards doing bylaw subcommittees that will take the recommendations to the council, because I haven't had any input in any of this yet. So am I making myself clear?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So we stay on. But my question would be, my question would be, what type and how many people do you think are needed on subcommittees, and what areas should they cover?
Well, I mean, I have no wherewithal to understand the bylaw situation. So basically I have an overview of what's going on, but I have no wherewithal to make any judgments on how it works, because I don't understand it. So we need some clarification on how all of this works. Like, and if there is going to be a new bylaw, you know, let's wait till that comes out then and read it and work with that one. I mean, I would like to see the 750 gone so that I never have to look at it again. Anyways, I'm rambling here. I'm sorry.
I think if I get Mr. Matucci, if I could, I'm going to put you on the spot, and Mr. Dickinson. I think.
Hello, can anybody hear me?
Yeah.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
So I'd like to speak to Patsy Jesse's comments. Thank you, Chairman Hay.
Cut me off.
If you can hear me. I've just been able to get on here because my computer is kaput and I'm on somebody else's. I got no audio, so I'm now on the phone. So yes, I am totally agreeing with what Patsy was saying there. And what she's trying to say is, we as a committee have not all been consulted on these recommendations that are being put forth. So when we come to these meetings, can you hear me?
Yeah, you certainly can. At least I can.
I didn't notice that I had your rapt attention there. Okay, so I'm saying that when we come to these committee meetings, we get our agenda and we see these recommendations that have been put forth. And as far as as far as myself is concerned, but I'm also hearing that from Patsy, none of us have been consulted or had any conversation about them. So what I'm asking is that this committee either needs to involve everyone, all 9 of us, in these conversations, and perhaps subcommittees could help with that, or we need to absolve the committee because it's not effective if everybody doesn't know what's going on. Thank you, Chairman Hay, for listening.
Thank you, Member Harrison. Mr. Matucci and maybe Mr. Dickinson, what probably be good, everything we've been dealing with is old. When this new one comes out, the committee probably would be best to sit down and go through it page by page and ask both you gentlemen any questions they have about it and get clarification. Too many times and I'm not a lawyer myself, too many times I read something that may not be what is meant on the piece of paper. So I think. Okay,
I'm going to interrupt you. I want to interrupt you right there because I'm not talking about the bylaw necessarily. I'm talking about recommendations that show up on the agenda. I read them and then I'm put on the spot to agree with them or not when I haven't had any consultation or communication to anyone else on these. I don't know who's putting forth these recommendations. I don't know who's communicating with one another, but I'm being left out of the communication. That's what I'm trying to get across here. And I think that's what Patsy was trying to say as well.
Thank you, Member Harrison. Subcommittee Chair McCann, this probably would be something to look at when the committee goes through the terms of reference to find out a way everybody can get together and share this information and that. Could you look out for that in your subcommittee meeting, please?
Say that again, please.
The problem, okay, so you're gonna meet with your subcommittee, so what I was asking you is, can you, at the subcommittee meeting, put something in the terms of reference of how, when somebody brings something forward, okay, how everybody gets a chance to talk about it, okay, and get their views on the ground. And even we've got our two experts here, okay, and they're certainly able to answer the questions if we have them. Could you look at that at your subcommittee meeting, please?
I will. Yes, because the other complaint that I have at the moment is that the last subcommittee was called. I notified everyone wasn't available at that time. I heard nothing back from anyone. And then I put forth my concerns, which I'm not happy about yet, which are the definitions in that advisory select committee draft terms of reference. And I haven't been able to talk to anybody about that. It wasn't put forth at that meeting. It was read out in the next meeting, which I'm not happy about either, because there was information in there that I didn't want the public to hear. So I think there needs to be some kind of cohesiveness with this group before we go any further with it.
Thank you.
In answer to your question, I can put that forth at a sub-advisory committee meeting, yes.
I just wanted to note that when I went through, now that I'm stepping in, when I went through the past, agendas and minutes, it appears that there does need to be a process on how things get put into the committee, because there have the recommendations on the January 5th and 19th agendas were put forward by committee members themselves. So you're right. I think the committee itself needs to have a better conversation on how they want those to go forward before you are voting on them on an agenda. So that's a valid comment that Member Gessie had put forward.
Thank you, because my feeling was that it came from people who did not lose their house in this fire anyway, and that we who have lost our homes and are working with the residents of the village to get questions put forward should be included in these conversations. Thank you for allowing me to voice my concerns here.
Thank you, Member Harrison. Subcommittee Chair McCann, are you okay with this for your terms of reference meeting?
I'm sorry, I'm a little bit confused about what exactly I'm being asked to do here. I have no problem assisting if I can, but it would help to know exactly what it is I'm being asked to do as a subcommittee chair.
I guess what they're looking for is this. This is what I'm getting. If I bring forward a concern, something I want looked after, there's got to be somewhere where it is discussed and everybody's got to be able to put it in. So I want to, sorry, and I'm going to just go off ad hoc here. I want a hockey rink downtown. 8 other people don't want it. It's on the committee. They may say, Ian, I don't think that's really a good thing. So what we want, what is be supposedly going through to the council, okay, is a majority of the residents' concerns, not just our concerns on the council or on the committee. So what I guess we're looking for, and I'm sure, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, I'm sure Madam CAO might be able to help you when you, prior to your subcommittee meeting, and give you some advice and would that be all right?
Yeah, I'll have happy to explore that a bit. So my understanding is that people perhaps thought that this meeting was an opportunity to discuss and to air and to talk about things, and we are not correct in that assumption that if we want to do that kind of conversation, we need to do that in a subcommittee and then bring it to this committee as a formal committee and a formal motion. Is that what I'm hearing here?
So what you're hearing is because you were the chair of a subcommittee that looks at the terms of reference, it is going to be,
okay,
you're going to look out for putting that in. It's when we're at the committee meeting, like right now, so I say, I want to do this. How does Member McGuire say to me, oh, that's a good idea, that's a bad idea? Or when it comes in, give them some time so they can go do a little study on what's being done.
Chairman Hay, Chairperson Hay, I got you. I don't want to. I'm all good, and yes, I will do that.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
Sure, I'll move that. Whatever it is, I'm
Thank
moving.
you very much for all of your time.